Welcome to Pop Along RC, the RC car channel dedicated to RC car racing, and today it is time for us to start the FT9 build. I've been waiting to do this for some time because first thing I need to do is sort out a servo. So the servo that we're going for is this nice little Savox one. So let's move the camera, get it over onto the workbench, and let's get this build underway. So looking in the manual, as soon as we turn over the page, straight away we're in with servo and bolting that into the chassis. It is only a two-wheel drive car, so we haven't got to worry about loads of belts and bits and bobs. So hopefully this is going to go together nice and easy. So we have all the bags. We've got parts bag A, parts bag B, parts bag C. We're just going to work our way through. So now that I'm actually into bag number one, you can see that we've got bag number one, we've got step one, step two, step 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and back here is step 8. So everything's just broken down into steps, and again we need step 1 and work our way through. So when it comes to adding servo horn, you've got a choice between an F, which is the servos, or an SA, which is these ones. So I've got a Savox servo, which means I need an F. Now, I had a quick look at the ones in the kit. That one is an SA. And so is that. So at the moment I do not have a servo horn, so I might look at getting an upgrade for this anyway. So as you can see, we've got this tiny little O-ring which goes over this plastic cup here. It's quite fiddly, but do you know what, really nice, simple design, but yeah, just a little bit fiddly. Simply make them up so they're a mirror of each other. And on to the next step. Step 3 is very similar to step 2, just for the rear arms. So step 4 is quite straightforward. It's just about putting these screws in the bottom, but you have these spaces here. Now, you've got 4 at the back and you've got 4 at the front. You've got 6 slightly larger ones and then 2 slightly smaller ones. So it's important that you get these smaller ones under the front too. And that is the next step done. Really quite a straightforward build up till this point. The next step is moving on to start with some gears and diff. Now we're moving on to the diff, and we're going to need some 300 weight oil. So 300,000 weight oil is pretty thick stuff. I've just put it on a little bit of plastic there, one of the throwaway bags. Trying to do this without making too much mess. So we have moved on now to the next section, and I'm about to put on the spur gear. Now, I tend to run all my cars on 48 DP, so it might be that I look into changing this out at a later date for something that's 48 DP. All it does then is it opens up all my pinions that I have, because I don't have a massive collection of pinions for this car. So now I just need to put these spacers in to set the tension of the belt, and you can see the little dots here. You just rotate these round and it will set the tension, as you can see here. So I found actually to get the tension where I want it, I think that's about right. There's not too much tension there. I've actually rocked these one rotation towards tighter. I've actually set it in the low position as well. So for this bit, the words that have come out of my mouth have been quite disgraceful until I went on the hunt and I found a set of these, and these are a must-have. It says it up here for this next job, because that is a real pain. So this step has been the most fiddly. Obviously putting these bits on, once I got the other tool in, that was good as gold. I'm not happy about this one at the bottom. I don't think it's sat quite right. But up the top here, you can see these tiny, tiny little E-clips you've got to clip on. They actually go on quite easily. This is the challenging part, it's just getting those clips on. But they are now done. Roll on to the next step. So the uprights are now in place. And you can see those little bearings, how they sit inside those out drives. Really, really nice. The split front shock tower, belt, it's all coming together. I'm going to be honest, I'm not a massive fan of doing all these turnbuckles, but if you've got the right tools and take the time, it is important, I have to add, that you measure these up so that they are as accurate as possible, so that you can get this car set up as it says in the manual. It definitely makes a difference. This little bit here, I'm trying to screw it into this, was actually quite challenging, because what it doesn't show you in this drawing is all the other parts that are there. And actually, if you have a little look, it's the screw, if you turn that round, is just in there. It's this little grub screw here, and it's quite fiddly to get this bit in. But that is the steering mechanism, which you then need to add your turnbuckles to. So we are really making progress on this car now. Now we move on to building up the shocks. These shocks are actually tiny, really, really small, to get that sort of centre of gravity as low as possible in this car. Now, I tend to make up all my shocks in one go, so I will do all four. First of all, we put the spacers in, and then you've got a little rubber spacer that needs to go in. After that, there is a plastic spacer, and the plastic spacer is different on both sides, so you need to make sure you get it in the right way around. You need that little lip sticking out the top, and then you can screw the bottom of the shock in place, and that just holds that bit in nice and tight, and creates sort of a vacuum at the bottom when you actually put the piston in. In terms of the pistons, these ones, again, they're really, really small. But what you need to do is you need to make sure, you can see here the little bit of blue residue there, that is Loctite, to ensure that that screw doesn't come out. This is actually quite simple to do. What you've got is, you have one of these, which we've already built up, and you take one of these here, which again we've already built up, and you put those in like so. Now, when it comes to screwing the end in, it's a bit of a fiddly job, and what I would normally use to do a job like this is a set of these. Okay, however, if I put that in there like so, you can see there's hardly any gap to actually screw on. But because we have this screw in the top here, what you can do, take your 1.5, put it in the top like that, and then that holds the shaft in place, and you can simply, I say simply, you can screw it straight into the end. That literally just screws on there. Double track, that's all in tight. There you go. And then what I need to do is just measure this to make sure it's the right height. Easy peasy. So I just measured them all off with the caliper to make sure they're the right length, and then it's time to fill up the shocks with the oil. The oil actually comes with a kit. It's That's a 400 CST, and you're going to fill up all 4 shocks exactly the same, front and rear. So the next part is, obviously we fill up the oil. I've pumped this so all the air bubbles have come through. Then what you need to do is pop a diaphragm on top. Then we put the cup on top of that, and then you screw down the metal. So they're the 4 steps of topping your shock. So depending on what batteries you're running, it will depend on how many spacers you need to put in here. So I have actually placed this battery in and set it up for the batteries that I own. I am thinking about changing this over to 48 DP, just because I have a lot of 48 DP pinion gears, and I don't really want to go buying a whole new set of pinion gears. So I'm looking at 48 DP spur, so I can use the pinion gears that I've got. The car's pretty much done now. If I put it up here, ooh, there we go. You can see the front springs and the anti-roll bars are all in place. As for the rear, all looking pretty good. The last couple of jobs actually that we've got to do is fitting the foam bumper. It actually comes with this weight here, and you can screw into this some additional weights, which you have to buy separately. So if I have a little look over here, bear with me, we have some of these. So these are the additional weights that you can screw in to this, just to get a little bit more weight up the front of the car. At the moment I'm choosing to use a slightly bigger battery, which might mean I need to counter this by putting a little bit of weight over onto this side. But in order to get that dialed in, you probably have to get it on the scales and actually see what the balance of the car's looking like. The FT9 build. So everything now is in situ. We've got body posts, which obviously I'm going to need to cut down once I've decided on what shell I'm going to get. And then the last job is to put in the motor and electrics. But as far as build is concerned, this car is complete. So everything out of the box is built up. I will probably get Mark to solder it because of the amount of abuse that I'd get if I do a bad job on this one. So I'll get Mark to solder in the motor ESC. I'm going to have a little look at 48 DP and try and work out what gearing I need to run in order to keep the same ratio as this. And yeah, looking forward to getting it on the track. If you like what we've done so far and you want to see this car in action, like, subscribe, hit the old ding dong bell, and hopefully we'll see you trackside soon.